Hello, and welcome to The Alt Left.
Welcome back, everybody, to episode 63 of The Alt Left, your favorite source for Alt Left crunchy goodies. I am your host, Chris. With me today is Matthew Jumbo Johnson.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Sorry, that wasn't as quippy as you're usually coming up with, so I was taken aback.
Standard, yeah.
All right, fair enough.
I'm just, I got to keep the good Reverend on his toes. Speaking of which, the good Reverend is here. Okay, say hello.
Good evening, everyone.
So today, as promised, because we didn't get to it last week, is going to go ahead and be the State of the Union.
Yay! We all learned what's great in the US of A.
Oh my God, it was...
Fuck me.
I gotta tell you, it was really rough. And here's the thing: State of the Union addresses are never like lively. I don't know anyone who's popping popcorn and fucking having a UFC event when the State of the Union happens. We get to watch some old capitalist blowhard go up there and talk about how great he is. But typically, there's something of substance. Even if there's no substance, it's usually not.
There was none of that.
But usually, even if there's not substance, it's not painful. Like even George W. Bush was capable of going up there and not making me wince too much. And I really kind of thought the days of wincing through a State of the Union were over with Trump being gone.
No.
And, we make plans and the spaghetti monster laughs. We all three agree it was an absolute clusterfuck. It needs to get talked about.
Jesus Christ, if somebody could just learn how to read off a teleprompter.
The thing is, he even did. I thought he actually stayed on script decently. I thought his script was terrible. It's just...
Yeah, but, he was stumbling all over himself the entire freaking time. And I know the guy's got a speech impediment, but holy shit, guys.
That doesn't bother me. I mean...
the whole thing was just a freaking train wreck.
Yeah, the speech itself, no matter who was speaking it, was awful. It's like watching some guy walk out of the house with a 3 Wolf Moon shirt and a fedora. You're just like, who let you go out with that? Who let you put that on and go outside? It's the same thing. I look at the speech and I'm like, who said the president should say this?
Apparently his speechwriter did, because holy shit.
Oh my God, it was the malarkeyest of speeches. So, let's start. So the speech starts off, right? And the first few minutes had nothing to do with the United States. It was completely about Ukraine.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was stroking that Ukraine cock all speech long.
Everybody's wearing the blue and yellow. It's so emotional.
Oh my God. His quote in the beginning was like, Putin met a wall of strength and he met the Ukrainian people. It's like, who the fuck are you the president of again? Right? That was something Zelensky should have been saying. And it was so weird to hear the president of the United States just not even mentioning his own nation in the first few minutes and just touting the amazingness of this foreign country, again, who is barely an ally. It was for cheap points.
It's the popular idea right now. Everybody's talking about it. And so, yeah, you're right. He was trying to score the easy, cheap points at the beginning of his speech so that he could get all the applause.
Well, and it worked. I was doing a lot of reviewing on people, everyone, doesn't matter what political side of the aisle you were. Everyone was like, yes, we liked what Biden said about Ukraine. Yes, that was good. Ukraine good, Russia bad. Everywhere you look, actually looked into it. He got a lot of, it was a crowd pleaser. And so it kind of tells you, at least in that respect, I think you were asking Chris is who said this was good for, no, it was the kind of speech that appeals to the lowest common denominator. And in certain respects, I think I know exactly why they authorized that speech, because things like that worked. It's kind of like that meme from Family Guy where Lois Griffin's running for office and she was just repeating 9/11 and everyone was just cheering. It's that kind of just base level bullshit that all you have to do is mention something that everyone thinks is oh, he's on our side, and it wins. And in this case, that at least that bit did.
Yeah, unfortunately. And again, this isn't, yes, it is a buzzword right now, but why is that? I mean, our State Department is pushing this Ukraine thing really hard. This is not people like Ukraine. This is the United States Foreign Policy and State Department have been pushing a narrative, and they've been pushing it fucking relentlessly, that we need to support Ukraine and Russia, man, bad. And this was just more of that. I don't know. I mean, he had everyone stand and applaud the Ukrainian ambassador.
Right?
Like, State of the Union, what the fuck does this have to do with the Union? And it's not like this is World War II and Churchill was visiting. Like, Russia's invading a satellite state. It has just nothing to do with the fucking State of the Union. And he spends the entire first quarter just licking Zelensky's taint. And I just don't get it.
Because it's popular. That's it.
Well, and here's the thing, and the flip side of that is if he didn't do that, then every single right-wing network would have been for the next 48 hours. Why didn't he mention Ukraine? President didn't say anything about Ukraine. Clearly he doesn't care about Ukraine. Why didn't Biden say anything about Ukraine? Did you guys notice there was nothing about you? Like, that's what it would have been.
Yeah.
You know, I get it. I think it's ridiculous that in a speech that's supposed to be the State of the United States, the first, I think it was 15 minutes of that speech was just talking about Ukraine. And Putin, I checked the word count. Putin was mentioned 12 times. Like, he's clearly setting Putin up to be the Bond villain that this country needs to unite against. I agree with you, Chris. I think it's absolute horseshit and bullshit, but I'm not confused about why he did it. I think why that speech was authorized, why it happened, why all that stuff, I think couldn't be crystal clear. And I think it's an indictment of where our politics is at.
Well, the
and where our
Ukrainian
country
part,
is too.
sure. And
Yeah,
I wasn't
that's what I'm speaking
confused.
of
I am
specifically right
upset. When I say who the fuck
Yeah.
and why and how, this is rhetorical.
Fair enough.
I know exactly why this populist prick is doing this. But at the end of his Ukraine part, then I'm quoting him, we're giving more than $1 billion in aid to Ukraine. And it's like, hey, that's fine. I'm here for humanitarian aid. But you said we can't afford healthcare or student loan forgiveness. But you can just manifest $1 billion out of your ass to throw to Ukraine?
Yes, he can.
And again, this is typically a right-wing talking point. I don't like making it of we need to solve our problems at home before we help anybody else. No, I think you can absolutely do both. I think there is a time and a place to fund and give humanitarian aid in crises around the world. I think that's important. But don't do that while you tell me there's no money for healthcare and there's no money for student debt forgiveness. There's no money for housing assistance. These are programs that are humanitarian aids at home. Why don't we fund the humanitarian aid there and here and cut the military budget or do anything that could possibly actually help Americans out of debt? And the answer to that is he's a banking candidate.
Yep.
Absolute banking candidate. He was a banking senator. He spent his entire career in the pocket of the banking industry. So then he switches gears, and at the 14-minute mark, he pulled the shit that you think he would have stopped trying because it fails miserably on social media, where he takes credit for all the job growth.
Yeah.
Where people are,
it was his economic plan. His economic plan did the thing. Put all the people back to work.
Yep. Yeah, it's amazing what happens when you cut aid. And people are returning to work, and he's just fucking taking credit for that. And
Which, by the way, is a bullshit metric, and I don't care which president is in office, what side of the aisle he's on. Job growth means shit unless you understand what kind of jobs people are getting and taking. Unless you understand how many jobs people are being forced to work. If half of the country is now suddenly working 2 and 3 jobs that pay fucking minimum wage or less, that's not good. So looking at job growth like that doesn't help us determine whether or not, the working class is doing well.
Well, and what's the wealth of the nation? What is the wealth of the working class? That is a metric. If you want to say that your average working American's net wealth, I want to know what someone's net worth is compared to the standard of living. Now, if that starts going up, great. That doesn't mean it's the president's fucking fault or bonus.
And it actually has gone up, but only by 5.9% over the past year and 5.9% is still 2% short or 3% short of inflation over that same year. So we're still behind. I don't care how much the increase is. It's still not more than what the other increase was.
Well, and that's what I mean.
Hold on, I got the numbers for you,
I want
Chris.
it compared to the standard of living because, yes, wealth goes up, but we're talking about I want it compared to living standards. That's what we matter. And that factors in inflation, which it has not increased. It has only decreased. It's been decreasing steadily. Go ahead, Matt. You got numbers?
No, this is actually a statistic I was curious about, I think a couple of weeks ago when we were doing something. So I looked it up and I actually have it saved. So the bottom 20% of the United States That's the poverty class. Their net worth, $6,030. Okay. The next 20%, which is considered,
Let's 20%, a fifth of the country
oh yeah,
Yeah.
has an asset worth of $6,000. I mean, that means
Correct.
houses and cars and retirement plans.
Correct.
6,000. If they liquidated every single thing they own down to their toothbrush, you'd have $6 fucking grand. That's what a fifth of the country owns.
Mm-hmm.
So then the lower middle class, the next 20%. This is divided into 20%. So again, the numbers inside these groups are going to be everywhere. This is just the median of these different
obviously.
groups. $43,000. That's the lower middle class. That's their net worth. Now again, when we're talking about net worth, we're talking about all their assets and money that they have total. So
Correct.
if you have a home, this is included in all that.
Yeah, so yeah, the lower half of the working class is worth a Tesla.
Yeah.
A cheap Tesla.
Yep. And so, and then we go to the middle class after that, it's $104,000. And that's about it.
That includes home. I mean, so we're counting people's equity at this point.
Yep.
That's where you're getting those numbers. No one's got that in the bank, but these are the people who are actually homeowners paying mortgages.
And so, I mean, it goes on from there, but I'm not going to get too far. Obviously, the super rich are worth millions and shit like that. And,
but no, that's a hell of a statement there. 20%, a fifth of the country, isn't worth a used car. Like, that's insane. Which, I mean, you got to admit, if they're car owners, that's probably a majority of that wealth for someone who.
But
has
hold on, Chris. Some of them have
Toyota.
cell phones, so
and refrigerators,
yeah,
microwaves, luxuries galore,
yeah,
avarice of these poor people.
They probably own some jewelry and some sneakers too.
Oh my god, they probably feed a dog, fucking bastards.
I know.
Yeah.
God.
And once in a while, they probably go to Starbucks and get some avocado toast too. Don't forget that.
And
no wonder they're poor.
If they would just stop drinking coffee once in a while, they could afford to retire.
Oh yeah. But
yeah, so we got $1 billion for Ukraine. He takes then he takes credit for the job industry growth, which is, again, we know is a bullshit metric. And then what does he do? He praises the auto industry for manufacturing, like the dinosaur that he is. I mean, how outdated of an idea is that like America runs on Ford? Like, what? It's just old timey whimsy. No matter what the fuck he says, it's insane how out of touch this son of a bitch is.
Well, it's the only manufacturing we have that's worth the damn. Like, that's the thing.
No,
it's like the one thing
it's
we've got.
He left out the actual lucrative manufacturing we have in this country, and that's slave labor in prison. If you get any clothing or items that say "Made in the USA," it was made in a prison slave labor camp.
Most likely, yeah.
That is what the United States manufacturing is. There is some stuff, Kay works in manufacturing. It's a small niche field. There are steel workers, there are auto industry workers. Again, yeah, sure. Is Michigan a big? Sure, of course. I think there's a big plant in Tennessee too. Like, there are areas where there's a town that's run by a plant, but America's not a manufacturing hub anymore. Stop trying to make it that way. From Biden to fucking Trump to Obama, it's always like auto jobs and manufacturing, and we're gonna make steel, and it's like, or we can pretend it's the 21st century
and deal with the global economy. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How about we make 1 million jobs? Putting solar panels on every roof in the fucking country.
Right.
Just a thought. That'd be great. Wouldn't that be nice? We could solve our energy dependent crisis and put people to work. Like, it would be the greatest boondoggle of all time. But no. We need old timey, whimsical car manufacturing. And then when he did that, by the way, did you guys notice the crowd chanted USA, USA?
Yes, I did.
It was like watching 12-year-olds at the fucking Olympics.
I was horrified to hear everyone in that room chanting USA.
Yeah, these are senators and representatives chanting USA like a bunch of fucking frat boys.
Yeah, and then I mean, I'm getting ahead. I don't know if you want to take this line by line, but
whatever. Let's just beat this old man up.
God, this was the thing that pissed me off. Is the COVID stuff really pisses me off more than anything. But he said that the country has moved beyond the pandemic, even if it still needs to stay vigilant against mutations.
No, we are not out of a pandemic. We are still dying in droves.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I absolutely noticed that he said, "Oh, pandemic's over. It's time to go back to work and open schools up."
Everybody go back to your office. Don't work from home anymore. Just go in, don't wear a mask. CDC says it's cool, you don't have to anymore. You go back to work, you get sick and then you die because you still don't have any fucking health care. And then, maybe we'll get back to work. Maybe
Yep.
we'll do something fun. Maybe we'll start manufacturing. Oh yeah, and by the way, Intel is going to spend $100 billion building a giant semiconductor plant that won't be ready for 25 fucking years.
And that saved America because it made manufacturing great again. And when he was talking about that, if you remember when he was talking about like the pandemic's fucking over, right? His quote is, I wrote it down because I watched this and I literally took notes.
Yeah.
On my phone.
I would have liked to, but I was driving.
And he said, it's time to get back to work and fill our downtowns with people. I mean, first of all,
yeah,
there's still a pandemic. Stop filling places with people. Jesus Christ. Like, I know it's getting better and I know we can start going to restaurants again and that kind of thing. And that's awesome. But can we do it with caution? Instead, you're having everyone take their masks off and go back to work. And it's why? So the pandemic is not fucking over. Do not fill downtowns with people. And it's time to get back to work and back to the office. It's like we've literally shown that we can actually work from home. Now, again, not everyone. My job can't work from home. Kay's job can't work from home. Matt can work from home just fine. Has no problem with that. His job can be completely remote. In fact, actually, my new job, I got promoted. So my new job actually can work from home. I can do my job completely from home, but I have to go to the office because the boss wants me there. And Matt has to go to the office because the boss wants him there. Joe Biden wants us there.
Because they want to look over your shoulder.
Yeah,
that's the only reason why. It's control. It has nothing to do with your ability to do a job.
I don't even think it's control because they can look over your shoulder anyway. If you work remotely, everything you do can be tracked and monitored, and your production can be seen how productive you are in real time at that instant. I think it is.
So then what is it? Because the only thing that I can figure.
It's justifying corporate building leases and justifying lower middle management.
Yeah, it's exactly what Chris said. Because the thing is the moment you go work from home, what becomes painfully obvious, not only do they start saving on building space and things like that, and slight digression here, but I'll go into this. I already talked about the idiocy about my employer losing me for 8 months when all they had to do is let me work from home.
Honestly, tell the listeners that story again because it's fucking beautiful.
So for those of you that didn't know, so this, I'll try to make it as quick as possible, but because of the pandemic, we'd already been working from home, and I pitched the idea. I'm like, look, I would rather not lose 8 to 12 weeks of work, like maybe take 2 weeks off for my kid being born and then just work from home. I have no problem doing that. That'd be great. And she's like, well, we'll see. And this was like months and months before it even happened. And during that time, of course, we opened back up again because, this country doesn't fucking learn its lesson.
That's the other thing, is you did work from home. During the shutdown, you worked from home and it worked out great.
Yeah, there was no problems. But
so
everyone was opening back up again, so they had to bring us back in. And then, of course, Omicron happened and spiked. And this was just before I was supposed to go on leave. And before that happened, I had asked, I'm like, okay, you asked me to follow up with you. This was probably around November, December, giving them plenty of notice. Is this going to be okay? And no, we really don't want to do that. We feel the best way to be working is coming into the office. And then I don't think I told this part, but then I'm like, okay, so then what are my options? And she's like, well, you've got about 3 weeks of vacation. You can take all of that and just go through me and make it easy, or you can go through HR and do whatever they want. I'm like, cool. Well, I know exactly what HR is going to give me, so I'm not going through you because HR gave me 8 weeks and that's coming paid. So fuck that.
Well, yeah, because HR doesn't give a shit one way or the other. They're going to follow the rules.
Yeah.
Period. Because that's what HR
is. Which HR, but yeah, ours is.
But you know what I mean.
Exactly. Yeah. This HR, absolutely. I agree with you. And so essentially what ended up happening when they could have just lost me for 2 weeks, not had to have my work shoved on a bunch of other people. I could have just come back in, hit the ground running. No time would have been lost. No work would have been lost. No, instead they're losing me for 8 weeks. All my work had to be closed out before I left. All new work coming in got shifted onto all my coworkers. And when I get back, it's going to take at least another 2 to 4 weeks just to get me back on track and going with the flow again, to get caught up on all the things that I've missed. All because of this stupid idea about not working from home. And guess what happened? Shortly thereafter, Omicron hit. And for the last 2 months before I went on leave, we were working from fucking home. that in and of itself is stupid. Now, I said all that to say this, to go even further into the idiocy. Right now, our offices, our IT department is all working in one single bungalow that is like 12 years past the time where it should have been torn down in the middle of a parking lot. Okay. They have been wanting us to move to a new space for like fucking years. I mean, before I got there. So like probably the last 4 or 5 years. They are still debating where to move us. All they would need, and the thing is they're anxious to have it done because they want that parking space for people to park. They want to tear down those bungalows, but nobody can figure out where to put us because there's no space available. And so we're stuck there. And so all this stuff is getting delayed. All they would have to do is let us work from home. Problem solved, but they won't do it. And what I was going to say too is to piggyback off of what Chris was saying is the moment you have people work from home for any significant amount of time, not only do people start saving money on supplies, equipment, space, electric bills, water bills, things like that, all that stuff gets saved. And then all of a sudden, like, hey, this is pretty good. Where else can we save money? And then a big old spotlight gets shined on middle management because all their job is the only thing their job is to do what anybody else can replace easily by software. Middle management is obsolete in this day and age, especially when you go work from home. And like Chris was saying, is the moment you do that, higher ups start to realize that, and then middle management loses their job. So middle management is never going to go against higher ups that want to keep people in the office because it means their job if they do.
Yeah.
No, and I absolutely agree with you on those points. But the higher ups, the reason why they want it back is control. Because they're not worried about the middle management. They're worried about the control.
But I don't know. I disagree. They haven't lost any control.
Yeah,
If
higher
you
ups
have
are always
someone
in
who sits
control.
in front of a computer all day,
they like to look over people's fucking shoulders.
Okay,
they
but
like
that's a
that
fetish.
control.
That's not control. Like, you haven't controlled anyone anymore by having them in an office. All you've done is force them to commute.
And I'm gonna even disagree with that because here's the thing: like at least in mine, the structure goes like the CIO and all the people at his level or below. All right, and then below those people is my boss, and then below my boss is my supervisors, and then me. I don't see any of the people above my boss ever. A lot of them, again, remember, these are boomers and older. These guys are just used to this old way of thinking, and this is their habit. Like in their minds, they've been brought up with this idea where it's like, if you are not in the office working 9 to 5, punching a time clock, you are not working and you're stealing from the company. This is the lie they've been ingrained in their heads. Yeah. They were sold this lie. They believed it. They've come up believing it. And even though
if you're not there in a brick and mortar, you're not working.
Yeah, exactly. And even though all the data we have shows the opposite of this, that people actually work harder and longer when they work from home because they're more relaxed, more free, and more willing to invest time because they're already at home to begin with. It doesn't matter because they don't care about that stuff because, again, this is a generation that's resistant to change.
Yeah. Well, and I told this before, but on Christmas Eve, I got into an argument with a boomer and a Gen Xer who are both a little bougie. I wouldn't call them conservative. I would definitely call them well-to-do liberals. And the argument was basically on getting back to the office. And all anybody cared about was returning to normal. And the boomer just couldn't wrap her head around that anybody could actually be productive. The Gen Z couldn't wrap her head around that her feelings about wanting birthday cake in the office were less important than people's actual productivity. And when I brought up, like, working from home during the pandemic opened up a new job market of disabled people.
Yeah.
Like, an entire portion of our populace who couldn't work because they had to fucking commute in, go upstairs, do a thing. It's like, it's a pain in the ass for the most able-bodied person in the world to get up early, take a shower, put on clothes, drive through fucking freeway traffic, get a fucking bagel and a coffee, go into work, pretend to be happy that you're slaving your life away. Now imagine doing that with a physical disability. Or if you don't have a fucking car, like, Jesus Christ, can you imagine being physically disabled and riding a 2-hour bus ride to work downtown?
No thanks, I'll pass.
And that's just if it's a pain in the ass. What if you're physically unable to make that journey? And it's like, there's people who could benefit and could contribute greatly to our society, and we're just telling them no because fucking Karen wants her birthday cake. And it's the stupidest shit in the world. And literally, I kid you not, I was told by this boomer that not only does it not matter, not only does it not matter that disabled people need to work and they have the right to dignity and income, but also this might cost the companies money and maybe they can't afford to pay this kind of living wage, and that was more important than people's wages. And I literally looked at her and said, wait, are you telling me that a company's right to earn profit is more important than paying its employees a living wage? And she went, absolutely.
What?
Now,
This
she's
is
from the
supposed to be a
bank.
liberal, like a boomer liberal.
She was a banker her whole career. But yeah, she's pretty liberal on most things. But you got to remember, liberals with wealth are pretty shitty.
Yeah.
Jesus.
And she's just no idea of how horrible what she's saying is.
No, she hasn't struggled for anything her entire life.
Oh, well, yeah.
Why would she? How can you can't, I'm sorry, empathy comes from struggle. Not that if you've struggled, you guaranteed have empathy, and not that if you haven't struggled, you can't have empathy. But it's kind of like education tends to breed leftist thinking. It's the same thing. It's not that you can't be a leftist and not have a high school diploma, but typically the higher your education is, the more left you'll be. These are things that correlate, and people who have never struggled through poverty and have never struggled through disability, have never struggled through prejudice, tend to have less empathy. If you come from a wealthy, white, protected background and you have never suffered prejudice based on physical, mental disabilities or race or religion or anything, if you haven't suffered that, you've just been fucking rich wasping your way through life, you're not going to care much about other people because the world isn't that hard and you don't understand why anybody else is bitching.
Yeah.
These are things that correlate. But anyway, we're way off topic. But yes, that's the thinking that Biden is from. Because again, who's Joe fucking Biden? He's a guy who has spent his entire life as a U.S. fucking senator, having plenty of money, earning it, working for the banking industry, and telling poor people, women, and black people to go fuck themselves. There's a reason why every single time anybody croaks, he's like, oh, it's got to be a woman of color. Because he spent his whole life being a racist piece of shit and being a sexist.
I'm sorry, but Joe Biden's father struggled. Didn't you hear during the speech?
Yeah, and his son too.
He understands. He understands.
He's from Scranton, Pennsylvania. Yeah, whoop de shit. Sell paper. I don't fucking care. Joe Biden hasn't struggled for shit. His outlook is privileged as fuck. And here's the thing: I'm privileged as fuck.
Yeah,
I grew empathy because I struggled in my life. The point is, but Biden hasn't, and not that excuses it, because again, I don't care how much. If you haven't struggled, you still have an obligation to give a shit about other people. But this is why Biden's so fucking out of touch, because he doesn't care. He's never cared. Biden wrote the bill making it impossible for you to declare bankruptcy on student loans. Biden decided you should drown in that. Biden is the one who trashed Anita Hill for speaking up about sexual harassment. Biden is the one who completely silenced his credible rape allegations when he was a senator. Biden is the one who didn't want to integrate schools with black people because it would become a, quote, racial jungle. This is Joe fucking Biden. And because he happened to work for the world's most popular black guy, doesn't make him woke. It doesn't make him popular. It doesn't make him left. It doesn't make him whatever word you want to go with. He's just fucking Joe Rogan without doing mescaline.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. He's a piece of shit, and his proximity to a popular black dude who's also a bastard doesn't make him not that. And this speech showed that above all else. What was he promising? He's promising to cut the cost of prescription drug. How, bitch? You won't even allow single-payer healthcare in the country. You've done everything you can to enable private pharmaceutical industries a cut of the profit and the only seat at the table. And you want to say, I'm going to cut the cost of prescription drugs, but with zero plan. And then later, I'm going to let Medicare. I want to have Medicare, be able to collectively bargain with pharmaceutical industry. So what? Like,
people left it Joe Biden have already been bought out and shut it down at the state level. Like, I don't believe for a second Biden's going to be the savior to do it when people like. Fuck, what is it? Is it Cory Booker?
Yeah, Cory Booker, the one who sold his soul. Yeah.
Yeah. Like when people like Cory Booker is demonstrably more left than Joe Biden. And even he was easily bought out by the pharmaceutical industry. I'm sorry. If Cory Booker's is going to be bought out, there's no way Joe Biden's going to be the one to stand up to them. No,
yeah. There's no Goldman Sachs Biden is going to get through this. And again, it's just empty fucking promises. And he's like, I'm going to cut the cost of childcare. And then Is there a plan for that? Is there? I'm introducing to the House bill. Nope, just move it on. My plan is going to cut the cost of childcare in half. He just spits out fucking random numbers about cutting the cost of
No, no,
childcare and prescription
it's
drugs.
gonna cost only 7% of your income. Well, when your income's like $20,000, 7% is still pretty fucking big.
So yeah, Joe Biden has become the Arrested Development meme. Like, what could a banana cost? $10? Like, that's what he's fucking out. Like, what's childcare? 7% of your income? Just do more lobbying. You'll be fine. Like, he doesn't give a shit. And then he told on himself. Did you catch the capitalism
I'm a
line?
capitalist.
Yeah,
Not only
yeah.
I'm a capitalist, but he's like, capitalism without competition is exploitation. It's like, oh, you're so close, Joe. You're so close. You're so close to getting it.
Little bit. One
Yeah.
more baby step, bro.
Yeah, no shit. It is exploitation, motherfucker. And going up there, again, you won because you weren't Trump. Like, when are you Democrats going to fucking recognize that standing up on a podium and screaming, I'm a capitalist, isn't a popular message these days? This isn't the fucking 80s anymore.
No, but I'm a capitalist. That means I'm good, right?
Right? Oh, and then what does he say? I'm going to make $15 minimum wage a reality. It's 2022. That means nothing.
Yeah.
That means
I'm sorry.
$15 an hour
It's
means
got to be
nothing.
like 28 or more.
I mean, it
Yeah, and we're
depends.
in the
If you're-
middle of some of the worst inflation we've seen in years, not to boot. Like, another year of this shit, and like 25 an hour ain't gonna cut it.
I'm finally going to make it safe to live in the 1990s. It was absolutely fucking terrible. And so those are my big gripes. I mean, who else has got stuff? Because I literally was damn near now. Oh, and then of course you get Nancy Pelosi rubbing her knuckle. That was another thing. By the way, I want to put out. Did you notice that and this is always the case, obviously, the State of the Union is performative. It is a party for the party to show off, to get votes, to get whatever.
Yeah.
Like, the president's the leader of the party. This is so the Democrat or Republican Party, whoever's in power, can show off, right? Obviously. This is the most obvious performism I've ever seen. Like, besides the USA chants, we had Nancy Pelosi rubbing her knuckles together when Joe Biden was talking about people burning to death and getting lung cancer and shit. It was like, well, that was weird. And it was like she was itching for this moment. It was really weird. Then you got Chuck Schumer standing up and sitting down, not knowing when to clap, and it was like he was missing a cue card.
The whole time, he kept like wheeling people out to prove some sort of point. There was the woman from the Ukraine, the ambassador, and then there's the kid whose birthday was yesterday.
Look at my African American.
Yeah, Joe the plumber over here. I don't know what the hell he was talking about at that point. I tuned out for a second.
I don't know, Ulysses the Ukrainian, whatever. Like, whatever mascot he felt like wheeling out.
And then he goes on for, I don't know, it was like 10 minutes about burn piles in Iraq causing brain cancer. And, then he's got to wheel out Beau Biden again. It's like, bro, we get it. Your son died from brain cancer.
Actually, that was that was the only time I was okay with it, because it shut the fuck up Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Well, it did.
And Lauren Boebert. Like, shutting those two up was the only thing I enjoyed about the State of the Union.
Sure, but still, man, like, I'm sorry, but every chance he gets, he's like, my, hero son, Beau Biden.
Well, yeah, and it's a strategy. He has absolutely been using the fact that he comes from a military family and his son died in the military.
His son died from brain cancer. He wasn't out there saving lives.
Yeah, to be fair, it was most likely from the war in the Middle East. Like, we don't know for sure, but his son probably died from war-related disease. We were dropping depleted uranium next to toxic waste. There's a reason why most Iraq and Afghanistan vets are coming down with all kinds of cancer.
And I get that, but it's not about burn piles.
No, it was dumb. But the thing, I'm just pointing out that the reason he's doing that is he's trying to cut the Republicans out of saying the Democrats don't care about the troops. Have you noticed every speech is God bless America and God bless our
troops.
And he's kind of got one over on them with that, because not to digress again, but that bill that just came out that was it was like, hey, maybe we should treat, veterans with cancer and get them, better health care. And literally every Democrat supported it, and like all but I think 40 Republicans went against it. You know, it's kind of like he's, at least in that front, he's walking the walk a little bit.
Yeah, great. He cares about veterans. And like, don't get me wrong, we should care about veterans. Veterans get screwed
We
in this
should.
country, and veterans get a raw deal. And I'm all for veteran reform. What I am not for is saying, I'm going to do tiny token reform for veterans and call it a day on being a humanitarian.
Yeah.
How about you stop sending them to war?
I hate the fact that in this country we fetishize veterans. We fetishize the military, and when they come back from war, yes, we should take care of them. They should have health care, but they're not all fucking heroes. I'm sorry, they're just not,
You can't be a fascist government if you don't venerate your military.
right?
Yeah.
It's one of the hallmarks.
But it just makes me so sad because these people are people, and we just need to treat them like people instead of treating them like they're some commodity.
Yeah, but instead they're treated as less than human in terms of resources
Yeah.
and hailed as heroes to make up for that. And that's what it really comes down to is
Yeah.
that's the point is A, you can carry on a patriotic fascist regime, but B, you can also, you can also do fucking Trump, Air Force flyovers of hospitals rather than buying PPE for nurses. It's the same thing. You can do performative shit instead of actually helping. And that's all it is. Biden doesn't give a shit about helping anyone.
It's the essential worker tactic. It's
Yeah.
all lip service and none of the actual, action.
It is. It absolutely is.
Thank you for your service. Now go die. That's all it is.
And then you guys caught the bit about funding the police as opposed to defunding, right?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Christ. Yeah. It's not about defunding the police. We need to fund them. Fund them. I was like, have you lost your
Give
fucking
them all
mind?
the money. They already have all the money. Stop it.
Like, don't get me wrong. He wasn't gonna win this next election, but it's like he's doing his best to make sure he loses the next election. Again, he doesn't want to be president again.
Either that or he's trying to get all the Republicans to vote for him.
Yeah, that's gonna work great.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Yeah,
but
the Let's Go Brandon crowd
he's
is gonna
definitely
fucking vote
trying.
for him.
I don't know. I still think there's enough fear left over of Trump that he might be able to eke this one out. I think there's enough people that are still so scared of Trump that they'll still look at Biden as he's still not that guy. This
As the
old
reasonable
crazy guy
alternative?
this crazy old guy scares me less than the other crazy old guy.
Trump coming back would be the greatest gift to Biden he could ever do.
Yeah, agreed.
It's the only reason Biden won the election. Nobody voted. Most people didn't vote for Biden. People voted against Trump.
Uh-huh.
And I gotta tell you, I just can't. Biden is the worst fucking thing ever because he's just as bad as Trump in all the bad ways. But he hasn't even motivated people to actually give a shit either. At least Trump galvanized the left. Biden's done nothing. And Biden continues to do nothing. And the State of the Union was absolute evidence that Biden will do nothing. It is more funding for police. It is more war. It is more saber rattling and defensive bullshit and dinosaur whimsical dreams of steel factories. That's all he has for us. And that's all he's ever had. But now when he trashes America, he's going to do it with a woman of color. Speaking of poorly written statements, what's in the mailbag, Matt?
Not a poorly written statement. We actually do get.
Oh,
we have
huzzah,
one.
better than Biden.
Yep. Yeah. Actually, this is from our boy Staffy.
Staffy.
Yeah, he messaged us. Always glad to hear from him. So he wasn't sure which one he'd be getting, if it was me or Chris, but he's like, not sure which one of you will read this, but if it's Matt, congrats on your new baby. Thank you, Staffy. Hope you're doing well. We are. If it's Chris, love your interview. Spot on with Between the Liars. So Chris, he's giving you a shout out for that. And I agree. I didn't give you a shout out for this last week, Chris, but you were amazing on Between the Liars. I thought you did great. You handled yourself well, and you really did. You done us proud, boy.
Well, us getting a shout out on our own shows, he's no better of an analogy to masturbation than I can think. Thank you.
And yet, still just as enjoyable.
Yeah. Again, think about Between the Liars, man. Again, these are some guys I do not agree with, but they're a lot of fun and they're willing to listen, and I think that's impressive for people who disagree so much.
Yeah,
I agree.
And I had a great time.
I absolutely agree.
I had a great time on it.
Well, and here's what I appreciate. At least they're informed. Like,
yeah, they're not just like well, Trump's like Jesus.
Yeah. Like, like if you know what you're talking about, like, okay, I still think you're coming to shitty conclusions, but at least we can have a conversation about it.
That's probably exactly their take on me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, at least he's informed, even if he's a
yeah.
dumb commie.
Yeah.
Which,
But anyway, he goes on to say, wanted to.
Wait, so Staffy didn't think he would ever talk to me?
No, because
No.
he's messaging us on
Oh.
Twitter, and everybody knows that if you're on Twitter, you're
good point. Never mind. Sorry, I apologize.
Like,
Yeah,
okay, what social media are you active on of ours
Yeah.
that everyone knows about?
I defy someone to get a hold of Kay on social media.
Yeah.
Good point.
That is the golden ticket of the Alt Left podcast.
Yeah,
but
if you can figure it out.
Yeah.
Then please don't dox us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but he goes on to say, so one of the comments he had was about that. He's like, referring to the guys on Between the Liars, he said, their answer to increasing on or limiting polling places just didn't sit right. It seemed no matter how hard you press them, they never gave a straight answer as to why polling places and other methods to increase ease of voting should be restricted. It just seemed to go against their desire to have increased faith in the integrity of elections. And I agree with that. I actually think that they did, but I think one of the things I noticed, and I talked to Chris about this offline, Chris and Kay, while I do agree that they were more informed than average and they were very good at presenting their viewpoints, whenever they got challenged on something, and I think he did this when he came on our show as well, rather than address the challenge, he would pivot to something else. And that's what they did a lot with this one, is Chris challenged them regularly, but they would pivot to something else. And it's like, what do you think? Is the sky blue or red? I don't think it matters what color the sky is. What really matters is
fix the sky.
It was always begging the question of, and the slippery slope argument.
Yep.
Like he was always begging the question and then invoking the slippery slope.
Yeah.
And those are tactics of people that don't have good viewpoints because
they're
there's nothing to hold on to. Yeah, they're logical fallacies. They don't have anything to really truly hold on to.
Now, my opinion on this is I've seen it a lot. I think when you get more educated right wingers, or more informed right wingers, my opinion, and again, this is just speculation. I could be completely off base here, but what I honestly think about, what I think it is I don't think they've actually considered a lot of these challenges before. I think that's why when we pushed him on our show, he was like, these are really good questions. Like, I don't think he's ever, and again, I'll go back to what I said on our show, because these issues don't affect them. Voting rights, because they're straight white males, don't affect them. Financial issues, because I'm assuming they're relatively middle class, don't affect them. Kind of what we were talking about before. They vote Republican for two reasons. One, the shitty things Republicans do will have no effect on them directly or anyone they know. And they are terrified of what Democrats might do. And again, I kind of get that, but a lot of the stuff they said is like, well, I'm worried about what might happen. The Democrats might do this. The Democrats might do that. Well, the Republicans physically are doing this and you're supporting it. Yeah, but what if Joe Biden, and again, it was always that going back to like, well, the Democrats are doing such and such, which could lead to this, which is what Kay was saying, the slippery slope argument.
That's exactly what it is. They beg the question and then they argue slippery slope.
Yep.
But it's why I think these and again, I'm sorry, Staffy, I know you were addressing Chris, but I think there's a reason why these questions are important, because when people have not considered these ideas and these viewpoints before, they need to have it challenged. And when you have an opportunity and you're debating, if you can have a cordial debate, you need to push them. You need to force them to answer these questions. Because if they don't have a good answer for them, it's a problem. Like if you're acknowledged, because that's the other thing, is he never told us we were wrong. He never disagreed that voting rights were being infringed. They just tried to either make it not a bad thing or tried to sidestep to something else about like, well, really, how is it being infringed? Like trying to challenge us on how they're being infringed. Like we know the numbers showed that less people were voting because of this. And then they try to make a correlation doesn't equal causation argument, which isn't true in this case, because we absolutely know that there was a cause to this. We found it. It was there in the data. But I think that you have to challenge right-wingers on this, especially right-wingers like these two, because I think they are. I do think they're probably good guys, but I think they're good guys that have some really fucked up viewpoints about other people that aren't them and don't look like them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
sorry, Chris, I monopolized that, but I'll get off my soapbox if you want to respond to stuff.
No, I appreciate it. I actually read it. I was actually, if you look, I actually emailed him back and said, I was the one responding and said, yeah, this is Chris. So yeah, no, I appreciate it, bud. Thanks for listening to us. Thanks for listening to the interview. Yeah, anybody who wants to cheer me on and say I did a good job, I will take good boy pats to the back any day. Especially from someone like Staffy, who's been with us since pretty much fucking day one.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Dude's been our ride or die.
Yep.
You got it.
So thank you, Staffy.
So thanks for that's it for the mailbag. Thanks for sticking with us, guys. Thanks for listening to us rant about old man dinosaur Biden. We will be back here next week, so please tune in. Hope you liked it. Let us know what you thought. Maybe there was something we missed. If you thought there was a big thing of Biden's speech that we needed to address, again, email Matt. And we'll talk about it next episode because we would love to hear feedback on that. Or if you thought we're great, or if you want to just give me more good boy points, I will hear it. But until then, we will be here next week. Me, Matthew the Endowed, and the Good Doctor every week, giving you lefty goodness. And until then, take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Remember, kids, the revolution is you.